Hey, let me take you back to this little diner my family runs out in rural Georgia, the kind with creaky wooden floors and the smell of cornbread hanging thick in the air. I'm Malik Jackson, just a 22-year-old Haitian kid with a Creole accent that folks here trip over. And man, I used to think this place was my safe spot until the day those elite chefs rolled in. It was a gloomy Tuesday morning, rain tapping the windows like it was trying to warn me, and the diner was buzzing with locals sipping coffee, their eyes cutting my way every time I passed with a tray. They'd mutter, "What's a Haitian doing slinging hash here?" or laugh about my funny talk, like I didn't belong behind the counter my mom and dad built from scratch after we fled Port-au-Prince. Then came the big shots. Chef Elena Brooks and her crew, all sharp suits and colder stares here to judge our little culinary contest. I'll never forget how Elena's lips curled when she saw me, her voice dripping with that polished disdain. "Oh, is this one of the contestants?" She didn't even look at my face, just my worn apron and the calluses on my hands, like I was some charity case who stumbled into her world. The locals joined in, chuckling, "Betty burns the grits," and I felt that sting deep in my chest, swallowing tears I'd never let them see. I used to think I could prove myself with time, but that day it hit me. They'd never see past my skin or where I came from. My secret? I'd been messing with these fusion recipes late at night, blending Haitian griot with southern collards, a flavor bomb I learned from my abuela's old cookbook she smuggled over, pages yellowed but packed with love. No one knew, not even my cousin Tasha who works the register, and I kept it that way, my hands moving fast over the stove while the diner slept. But then everything changed in a heartbeat when Elena announced the contest rules. First prize gets a shot at her fancy cooking show. The room lit up, but her eyes locked on me, and I swear I saw a smirk like she was already counting me out. "Let's see if he can handle more than a spatula," she whispered to her sous chef, loud enough for the front table to hear, and the laughter hit me like a slap. Inside, I was boiling. How dare they judge me before I even started? But I kept my face steady, that calm my mom taught me when the INS hassled us years back, and I nodded like it didn't faze me. Tasha caught my eye from the counter, her brow furrowed, but she didn't say a word, just slid me a plate of plantains, her quiet way of saying she believed in me. That little act, man, it was like a lifeline, and I clung to it, knowing I had something up my sleeve they'd never expect. What I never expected was how deep their prejudice ran. Elena's crew started betting on how fast I'd flop, their voices cold and calculated like I was a joke they'd scripted. But beneath that hurt, a fire was sparking, and I started plotting how I'd turn their smirks into silence. The diner felt smaller that morning, the hum of the fryer mixing with their snickers, and every clink of a fork felt like a judgment. Elena paced the room, her heels clicking like a countdown, her motive clear. She wanted to weed out the unworthy, and to her, that was me. I saw it in her eyes, that icy determination to keep her elite world pure, and it made me sick. But I didn't flinch. I just adjusted my apron, my mind racing through Abuela's recipes, each spice a weapon I'd wield when the time came. The locals didn't know it, but I was about to cook up a storm that'd shake this place to its roots, and that thought? It kept me standing tall, even as their contempt pressed down like a Georgia summer heat. So after that rough morning, I knew I had to prove something, not just to Elena and her crew, but to myself. The diner got quiet after they left, but the whispers stuck with me. Marcus, that loudmouth waiter, kept joking, "Malik's gonna choke on his own spices," and I'd just nod, swallowing that burn deep down. I used to think I could brush it off, but it started eating at me, so I threw myself into the kitchen late nights, the only place I felt in control. Mom would leave me a pot of sancocho, our Haitian stew with that rich plantain kick, and I'd tweak it, mixing in Georgia peach glaze, my hands moving like they had a mind of their own. What I never expected was how hard it'd get, but I wasn't about to let them see me sweat. Tasha caught me one night, hunched over the stove, scribbling notes from Abuela's cookbook. Those pages were falling apart, but every stain told a story of survival. She slid over a cup of café con leche, her eyes soft, saying, "You've got this, Primo." And that little word, cousin, hit me hard. It was her way of rooting for me when no one else did. I'd work till the roosters crowed, testing flavors, the sizzle of the pan mixing with my quiet prayers for strength. Marcus would poke his head in, smirking, "Still at it? Save yourself the embarrassment." But I kept my face steady, that calm mask I'd learned from Dad dodging ice raids back in the day. Inside, though, I was raging. How dare they doubt me when I was pouring my soul into this? The recipe started coming together, a fusion gumbo with jerk seasoning and collard greens, something Abuela would have called a taste of home with a rebel twist. I'd taste it, close my eyes and feel her nod of approval, even if she was gone. But the pressure? Man, it was suffocating. Every clank of a pot felt like a countdown. Every snicker from the day crew a weight on my chest. I started noticing details like how the diner's old radio crackled with salsa beats my mom loved, and I'd hum along, letting it fuel me. What kept me going was this one memory, Abuela teaching me to chop onions so fast the tears couldn't catch up, her laugh saying, "Speed is power, mijo." I was proving that power step by step, even if they didn't see it yet. All right, fast forward to contest day, and the diner's packed. Locals, Elena's judging crew, even some food bloggers sniffing around. I used to think I'd freeze under those stares, but I walked in with my head high, that gumbo pot steaming like a secret ready to blow. Elena's eyes narrowed as I set it down, her voice cutting. "Let's see if this immigrant slop holds up." And the crowd tittered. Marcus was front row, grinning like he'd already won his bet. But then everything changed in a heartbeat when I lifted the lid, that spicy, sweet aroma hitting them like a wave, and I could see their jaws drop. I'd poured my heart into it, jerk marinated shrimp, collards, and a peach glaze that tied it all together, a dish Abuela would have danced for. Elena took a bite, her fork trembling just a bit, and I swear the room went dead silent. Her face turned pale, that smug smirk gone. This is innovative," she muttered, like the words choked her, and the other judges exchanged looks, forks hovering. What I never expected was the gasp from the crowd when I adjusted the seasoning live, added a pinch of pimenton my mom swore by, turning it from good to unreal. Marcus's grin faded and Elena's eyes flicked to me, calculating, like she was seeing me for the first time. Inside, I was buzzing, years of their jabs, and here I was, flipping the script. "Who taught you this?" she demanded, her tone sharp. But I just smiled. Family secrets, chef, keeping that dignity Dad drilled into me. The turnaround hit when the head judge, a burly guy named Chef Ray, stood up, clapping, "This kid's a genius." The bloggers scribbled fast, and the locals started whispering, some in awe, some in shock. Elena's crew froze, their coldness cracking, and I felt this rush, like I'd just punched through a wall they'd built around me. But her motive? I saw it in her tightened grip on the table. She wasn't just judging food. She was protecting her elite circle, and I'd just threatened it. What kept me steady was Tasha's nod from the back, her café con leche gesture replaying in my mind, a quiet ally in this chaos. So Elena didn't take that loss lying down. Next thing I know, she's leaning over the table, her voice low but venomous. "Let's see you handle a real challenge, Jackson." I used to think she'd back off, but nope, she tossed a bag of yuzu, some rare citrus I'd never cooked with, onto the counter, smirking, "Impress us now." The crowd leaned in, curiosity buzzing, and Marcus muttered, "He's done," while Tasha's eyes widened, silently urging me on. What I never expected was how personal this felt. Her challenge wasn't just about food, it was about putting me back in my place. I grabbed the yuzu, my hand steady despite the heat in my chest, and started slicing, the sharp scent filling the air. Elena watched like a hawk, her motive clear, to expose me as a fluke, her cold calculation written in every crossed arm and raised brow from her crew. I remembered Abuela's trick for unfamiliar flavors, balance with heat, and threw in some Scotch bonnet from her old stash, a Latin kick they didn't see coming. The tension, man, it was thick, like the humidity before a storm, every chop a defiance against their doubts. Inside, I was raging, but I kept my cool, letting the knife do the talking. The crowd's whispers grew, some betting I'd fail, others holding their breath, and I caught Tasha mouthing, "You got this," her belief a lifeline. What kept me going was that image of Abuela's hands, steady under pressure, teaching me resilience. Elena's smirk hinted at a subtext. She'd faced her own immigrant struggles, and this was her way of proving she'd risen above, not me. But I wasn't backing down. This was my shot to rise. Okay, the cook-off was on, and I was in the zone, yuzu zest flying as I built a sauce around that Scotch bonnet glow. I used to think I'd crack under Elena's glare, but I tuned her out, focusing on the sizzle, the balance of sweet and heat coming together like a song. The crowd was hushed, then buzzing. Marcus's face went from smug to confused, and I platted it, a yuzu-glazed shrimp with a Latin Southern fusion that smelled like home. Elena took a bite, her fork pausing mid-air, and I saw that shift, her confidence crumbling as the flavor hit. What I never expected was the eruption when Chef Ray tasted it, shouting, "This is next level." The bloggers snapped photos and the locals cheered, Tasha clapping loudest from the back. Elena's crew exchanged uneasy glances, their coldness thawing, and I felt this wave of triumph wash over me. Every jab they'd thrown was paying off now. But her reaction? She stiffened, her eyes narrowing, and I knew she was calculating her next move, her motive still rooted in keeping her elite throne. Inside, I was soaring, but I kept my face calm, letting the dish speak. The turnaround came when Elena conceded, "It's adequate," her voice tight, and the crowd booed, sweet revenge for her earlier digs. What kept me steady was Abuela's voice in my head, "Cook with heart, mijo," and Tasha's quiet support, now a roar from the diner. This wasn't just a win. It was me proving I belonged, and their stunned silence was the best applause. After that cook-off, the diner turned into a different place. Folks who'd mocked me started slipping apologies like Old Man Pete saying, "Didn't know you had it in you, son." I used to think they'd never change, but there they were, lining up for my gumbo, and Marcus even helped me plate, muttering, "Guess I was wrong." What I never expected was how fast word spread. Immigrants from nearby towns showed up, proud smiles on their faces. But Elena? She vanished, her absence a loud hint she was wrestling with something inside. The community rallied, turning the diner into a hub for fusion nights, and Tasha grinned, "You're our hero, Primo." I felt this hope bubbling up, seeing kids like me get inspired, but I also caught the tension. Elena's crew whispered about her reputation taking a hit. Her motive, I figured, was pride. She couldn't admit she'd misjudged me. What kept me grounded was Mom's sancocho simmering, a reminder of where I came from, and I knew this was just the start of something bigger. A week later, Elena showed up at the diner. Her usual sharpness dulled, and I used to think she'd never step foot here again. She sat quietly, ordering coffee, and then it hit me. She was reflecting. What I never expected was her story spilling out. A flashback to her Italian immigrant dad, rejected by chefs for his accent, pushing her to climb over others. Her eyes softened, and I saw the conflict, pride versus guilt, her own past mirroring mine. She left without a word, but that visit lingered, her coldness cracking just a bit. What kept me thinking was how we're all shaped by those early scars, and maybe she wasn't just the villain I'd painted her as. Inside, I felt a mix of pity and resolve. Her reckoning was hers to face. Soon, I started mentoring Aisha, a Somali girl new to town, teaching her my yuzu trick, and I used to think I'd just cook alone. But she soaked it up, her shy smile growing, and Elena even offered a reluctant partnership for a cooking show. What I never expected was how that alliance shifted things. Her crew started respecting me, though her motive still felt like damage control. The diner buzzed with young immigrants learning, and Tasha beamed, "You're changing lives, Malik." What kept me going was seeing Aisha plate her first dish, a nod to her roots, proving we all had power to rise. This was bigger than me now. At the regional food fest, I won Best Dish, the crowd roaring, and Elena stepped up, her voice shaky. Malik's talent outshines us all. I used to think I'd never hear that, but there it was, sweet revenge for every snicker. What I never expected was the standing ovation, bloggers chanting my name, and her public nod felt like a weight lifting. Inside, I savored it. Every doubt they'd sown, I'd uprooted. What kept me humble was Tasha's hug, whispering, "Abuela's proud," and I knew this victory was for all of us. Elena's shift was real, but the retribution was mine. Now I'm launching a scholarship for immigrant kids, and I tell them, talent knows no borders, fight for it. I used to think my story ended with that win, but it's just the start. What I never expected was how cooking for my family, sancocho steaming, felt like the real prize, eyes on a future where no one's judged by their start. The message? Resilience beats prejudice, and equality's worth the fight. It's open-ended. Maybe Elena fully change, maybe not. But the hope's there, a lesson for the next generation. What would you do in my shoes? Drop your thoughts below. The heart of Malik Jackson's journey in Rising from the Rust, the chef who shocked the elite, whispers a profound lesson that resonates deeply with those who faced life's storms. Resilience and self-belief can turn the tide against prejudice and silence the voices of doubt, no matter how loud they roar. This story gently reminds us that within every individual lies a strength waiting to be uncovered, often hidden beneath the weight of others' assumptions or the shadows of an unjust world. For those of us who've navigated toxic environments or wrestled with the sting of being underestimated, it's a call to rise, to break the silence that binds us, and to redefine our worth, not through others' eyes, but through our own quiet courage. It invites a broader perspective on human nature, urging us to see beyond surface differences and recognize the dignity in every story, the justice in every triumph over adversity. Like a phoenix rising from the ashes, this tale encourages mature souls to reflect on the negative relationships they've outgrown, to forgive where possible, and to embrace diversity as a tapestry of shared humanity. It's a gentle nudge to let go of bitterness and plant seeds of hope instead, turning life's chaos into a garden of peace. So, take a moment, share your thoughts on this lesson, or a time you've overcome your own challenges in the comments below. Hit that like button to support stories that inspire, and subscribe to our channel so you won't miss more dramatic, thought-provoking journeys ahead. Wishing you strength and serenity as you carve your own path forward with hope lighting the way.